creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
No, leave me alone. I'm tired of you sticking that phone in my face all the time. I'm done with it.
If you shut that door, we're done.
If I shut this door, then we're done.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yes, that's what I said.
After everything I've done for you.
Like I said, if you shut that door, we're done.
Oh my
Shut it right now. I will shut it right now. That's what you're saying. If I shut this door right now, then we're done.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Do you not understand English?
I'll shut it. Why are you smiling at me? This is absurd. You always got that phone.
I'm telling you, if you shut the door, that's it.
You always got that freaking phone in my face. I'm tired of it.
Don't shut! Oh! That's it. That's it.
She was a walking red flag, bro. Shutting that door was the beginning of your freedom.
Have you guys seen Doomsday Map? They came out with a map that looks like this.
Wow.
This is America. They do like the whole world, but this shot is of America. This lady, her name is Peggy Bolton.
Ooh.
She did some really fun research regarding the Doomsday Map. She compared with what this map looked like. She compared that to the land that Bill Gates has been buying. All
Shut
the
up.
farmland. He is the majority farmland owner in the United States right now. She took the map of the farmland that he owns and overlaid it onto this Doomsday Map. Every single dry land piece was occupied by his farmland, including California. So California is basically completely underwater, but there's these little pockets of islands. See those? That little one right there, that's one of his farmlands.
Yep.
Like that compared to like Zuckerberg, because on this Doomsday Map, Hawaii is completely fine. And she talked about how Jeff Bezos is also buying up farmland around the US. That all correlates with like these high points in America.
Yeah.
It's super creepy.
So we need to get a boat.
According to this map, we're good. We're gonna almost have beachfront property, baby.
It's perfect.
Did it?
Legal ownership of land will go straight out of the window if a doomsday event happens.
I fell into a group of friends that were from extremely well-off families, like very financially privileged people, like low-grade nepotism. You know, what became clear to me about those people was like they really didn't appreciate a single thing, and they didn't work for anything, and they didn't have any kind of aspiration, or they had aspiration, but it was like a guaranteed kind of aspiration. Like they were going to be fine. You know, they're not doing anything right now because someone's going to hand it to them someday. When they're ready and they ask for the contact, they'll have the contact, or when they want the job, they'll get the job. You know what I mean? There was no panic, there was no struggle, there was no sense of urgency.
Wow.
Going to university, where I went to university, I think there was a lot more of that. There was a lot more appreciation for where they had landed themselves and what they were doing, and the opportunities that were available to them.
Wow. Hey, out of topic, she's so pretty.
Have you guys seen Justin Bieber in 2025? This isn't him in 2025, this is like 2021. Let me show you a couple years ago, and then I'm going to show you 2025, and let me know what you think is happening to the Biebs. So we'll start with 2010 with this shady character and his arm around him. And and then there's this one. So remember what he used to, oh wait, who's this guy? I don't know. He gets everywhere. We all remember this guy, and Bieber, what he used to look like. Anyways. And by the way, he's only 30 years old now, so when all those people before were pictured with him, he was a baby, he was a child. But nevertheless, 2020, 2021, 2023, 2024, and 2025. What do you guys think of the Biebs? What's happening with the Biebs?
He's not happy. He's carrying a huge burden. It's trauma.
Yo, alright, geezer.
I want geezer. Nah, it's not funny. I've got school.
I got school.
Nah. I'm not laughing. I've got school. Nah, has he drawn on my
Why?
face?
Why did you draw on her face?
It's what?
I mean, it's lovely.
Is-
I love it.
Is it lovely?
Lovely.
Love it.
Polly, what did you have for your tea?
Carbonara. I love
What
it.
was in the carbonara?
Chicken.
Did you have a drink?
Yeah.
What did you have?
Coke.
Girls, what's just happened?
So, there's an ice cream van there selling just 2 ice creams with 2 chewing gums in it
Yeah.
for bloody £9 for 2 of them.
£9 for 2.
Yeah, £9. That is going to get nowhere. The one that comes on my street is either £1 a pee or £2. That is going to get nowhere with that.
No, he
Oh,
is.
man.
That's
well bad, isn't
Yeah, you
it?
should know. And he only does bloody cars. Stood there with my cash. Bloody hell.
Bloody hell. Hey, 9 quid for 2 bubblegum swirls? Valid argument in.
Have for you is that, to the surprise of many, including, I'll be honest, myself, the Supreme Court has denied Donald Trump's bid to stay his criminal sentence. He is scheduled to be sentenced tomorrow to no jail time, but as of tomorrow, he will officially be sentenced for the 34-count felony conviction in New York. The Supreme Court asked and answered. They have said no to Donald Trump's bid to stay his sentencing.
What's the point of sentencing with no prison time? And how was he able to even run for presidency? I mean, I like the guy.
I'm going to start with count 2. It's a burglary of a dwelling with a battery, which is punishable by up to life in prison. You're adjudicated guilty and sentenced to 25 years in the Department of Corrections.
Oh my God.
That's going to be followed by 30 years of sex offender probation. You're going to have to follow the sex offender probation conditions set forth in 948.30, which includes sex offender treatment, a variety of other things, including polygraphs, no use of the internet without a risk assessment, no contact with children under the age of 18. I don't know that that's going to be applicable in this case, but I assume all those are still going to apply. You cannot have any contact with the victim in this case, which means that no phone contact.
91, seriously? He might have brain damage.
People are going to be watching and want to answer this question is why Jesus?
Why not Jesus? He died for us all.
Amen.
The book that stood the test of time from the beginning of time, that talks about things that are going on in today's day and age and predicted it back then. I mean, why not? Come on.
It's important to me every single day. It's not about football. It's just giving glory to God for being able to walk around and live my life, to have a beautiful family, to be able to have impact on others. And I'm going to use that stage and that platform, win or lose, to give glory back to Him, to hopefully bring others closer to Him, and that they can have the same love for life that I have because of that.
As someone that's on the fence with the whole idea of Jesus, what would you say to that individual? Why Jesus?
At the end of the day, He's the only way. He's the only way. He's the truth and the life. And there's a lot of other religions that will tell you to do, and Jesus says it's done.
Easy 2 words is that He's better. You know, Jesus is better than in football, Jesus is better than anything else you have going in your life. He's just a better king, a better leader, and he loves you more than you could possibly imagine.
Amen.
Yeah, man. Faith is always the first and foremost in everything I do. The two most important women in my life wouldn't be here without having faith, without God, both being cancer survivors. And so, yeah, they've rooted in me since I was a kid.
Regardless of where you're at in your life, you know, and the fact that God came down, took on flesh, and died for our sins, I think that's the biggest thing that I, take away and I hold near and dear to my heart every day when I go out and I make decisions for my family, when I play football. If God can do that, you know what I mean, then, I can go out there and try to be the best that I possibly can in glorifying Him and everything.
You know, man, my father, before he passed away, he had 100 years in a federal penitentiary where he was about to be sentenced to that. So, I grew up around, situations where, I had a family member who went to jail for 10 years. So, I would say, man, always believe, because you never know why you're in that situation or why God put you there, and everything happens for a reason. So, just know that.
Why Jesus?
Looking at his example, you just feel so very overwhelmed with gratitude for who he was, what he did, and who he still is, and just so very thankful for all those in my life that have had an impact on me and continue, and we're ever growing, right? I mean, we're instructed to grow in the knowledge of grace and continue to grow as we walk in this life, and that's what comes to mind.
God wins. The end. Oh no. We don't deserve dogs. Bet romance said a lot too. Barry London. I think I've seen that movie. This one, Eyes Wide Shut, Tom Cruise. Oh, this one, Dr. Strangelove. I think I saw this one. No, not this one. Oh, this one, The Shining. Space Odyssey. Which one do you like, folks? Is this real or AI?
No. No, my
brain dead. What do you say? Brain rot. Look at the face. Brain rot. I want to try it on my cat.
This shit finna be dark. We all know that the Super Bowl is tomorrow. And we all know tomorrow Kendrick Lamar is headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. I'm hearing he finna show his true colors, y'all. He's finna show what side he really on. And y'all, I hate to say it, but it's not the good side. We all remember when he wore this outfit performing during the show. And this was a mockery of God.
Yes.
But that's y'all boy though. Y'all see no wrong in this. That's why I don't look up to none. I don't give a damn how lyrically good you are. I don't care. They really picked the perfect person. He got everybody eyes on him. They like, yeah, it's your time, Kendrick. The world is watching you. So I'm watching for the symbolism. Shit finna be crazy, y'all. And plus it's going on in New Orleans. Y'all already know how New Orleans get. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this down below in the comments. I'm gonna be uploading a video. I'm gonna show y'all everything. So stay tuned.
That outfit of Kendrick Lamar is not just a mockery of God, it's also a mockery of Jesus. It frustrates me. What is a human egg farm? I read the caption, but I'm still unsure what it means.
This is the first ever footage of an anglerfish, the exact same fish that gave us nightmares as a kid, from Nemo, in broad daylight up close to the surface of the ocean. Now the reason this is so rare and has never been captured before is anglerfish typically live 3 miles underwater, which is so deep that light doesn't even reach down there. So before this video, the only time we've ever been able to find an anglerfish is 3 miles underwater in a deep sea vessel in pitch black. So it is absolutely flabbergasting people that this anglerfish was seen so close to the surface of the ocean for no apparent reason. I guess this dude just had to see what all the hype about the surface of the ocean was all about. That's my opinion. Let me know what you think happened in the comments.
That means something changed in his environment. Maybe. Let me know how you feel about this in the comment.
This is the only proof we have of parallel universes, and it's absolutely terrifying. In 1954, a physicist named Dr. Elon McBezos was working on a top-secret government project called Project Looking Glass. The goal? To create a device that could glimpse into parallel universes. The device was a massive, circular mirror made of an unknown metallic alloy. When activated, it didn't reflect the room. It showed a different version of it. At first, the images were harmless. A chair slightly out of place, a clock ticking backward. But then things got darker. One day, the mirror showed a version of Dr. McBezos himself, but he looked terrified, staring back with wide, panicked eyes. The reflection mouthed the words, "Don't trust them." Panicked, Dr. McBezos shut down the project and destroyed his notes. But the mirror was too valuable to destroy. It was locked away in a secret facility, never to be activated again. Decades later, in 2023, a group of urban explorers broke into the abandoned facility. They found the mirror, still intact. Curious, they activated it. At first, it showed their reflections, but then, the images shifted. They saw themselves in a world where society had collapsed, where the sky was red, and where their doppelgangers were watching them with cold, emotionless stares. The last thing they heard before the mirror shattered was a voice from the other side. "We're coming."
If these red
Elon Bezos, really?
heifers get sacrificed this Passover, do you guys know what that means for the world? Even better, do you know what that means for you? If these red heifers that were taken from Texas and brought over to Israel for ceremonial purposes are sacrificed this year because they're about to age out, we are really in the fast track for Jesus' return. Right now, we're just watching all the signs converge and compile and things are getting crazy. But the moment these heifers get sacrificed, it's officially over. In fact, the Orthodox Jews believe that it will have to be their Messiah, aka the Christian Antichrist, to officiate this ceremony. Either they're just saying a bunch of words that don't really mean anything, or it really will be the Antichrist to officiate this ceremony. And what that means for you is that you need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, because now it proves that the Bible is really the prophetic book that has been orchestrating the entire history of the planet. There is a part of me that is extremely excited to see what will take place this year as these red heifers get to that age. And there's another part of me that really just wants to check my own heart and make sure I'm right with the Lord. The Bible says when you begin to see all of these things happen, to look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And guys, we are watching all of these things happen. If these red heifers get sacrificed this year, I would have hoped that you would have taken the provision to be ready for such an event, because it's going to change the history of mankind forever. And hopefully you will be ready. I know I want to be.
Yeah, get right with God, folks. Jesus is around the corner.
There's something emotional about this photograph, even though it's supposed to depict a celebration.
Oh, this is that
27 years ago, XXL magazine assembled 177 of the most influential hip-hop stars of the time for a photo shoot titled The Greatest Day in Hip-Hop. The image is captured on Harlem Street, where a large shadow on the ground threatens to consume the faces of Busta Rhymes, Jermaine Dupri, Fat Joe, Jadakiss and more. This photograph was taken on the 28th of September 1998, exactly 40 years after this iconic image was taken.
Wow.
On the same day, at the exact same location. Except the faces you see here are of some of the greatest jazz musicians to have ever lived. As much as this image is also a celebration, reality really sets in when you look at this photograph, taken 37 years later, of the remaining musicians from the original 1958 image. 13 years from now will mark the 40-year anniversary of the XXL cover, which had me thinking, how many of these legends will still be with us? And perhaps more hauntingly, how many of us will be here to witness it? The truth is, time is like that shadow on the ground, inching closer every day, slowly and quietly, until eventually, we all fade to black.
You know, we had the jazz generation, hip-hop generation. What's the next generation?
Tell y'all a true story, be so boom, watch this video to the end. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Let's go.
If the sun was below the firmament,
okay,
then it would reflect off the dome.
True.
And create a sun-like dome reflection above your head.
Stop playing with me, son.
Shut up! Did you see it? Because I didn't see nothing. Stop playing with me, son. This video is for entertainment purposes only. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just pointing to the sky.
I love this guy.
Shut up! Time and time again, they show you. But you know what? They didn't show you nothing, and I didn't even see nothing. Stop playing with me, son. It's not a game out here, guys, and I don't know what that guy's talking about. He probably seeing things. You know, every now and then people start seeing things that's not even there, you know? That stuff you see and you refuse to say is true, even if you've seen it. Stop playing with me, son. It's not a game out here, guys, and you see what's going on. Well, how is the Earth? Is it? Or is it? Shh, don't you say it. Stop playing with me, son. It's not a game out here, guys, and you know what's going on. But I tell you one thing. If I'm ever outside and I look in the sky and I see that, then maybe he's telling the truth, but I don't think he is.
All right.
So I brought my AI glasses to the Church of Scientology to see the world through the eyes of AI. This time I'm out here at night. We're about to go walk out front.
Wow.
Like, this place is very evil. Like, I'm kind of scared to be here right now. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna do it for you guys because everybody keeps.
Where is this?
So much.
California.
So they're having an event going on right now. So instead, I'm gonna just drive around it. So there's gonna be people over there. scope out the whole building. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. What the hell?
Ooh. Is this what it looks like in the spirit? Why is this scarier than the Cecil Hotel?
During that period when TikTok was switched off in America, we noticed a difference. We love America, but this transcends that. We noticed a lot of videos from other countries, right across the world, right across Europe, right across Asia. A lot of people are thinking that TikTok was pushing American content. I'm not sure if they're right. But what I do like is this new trend called World Talk. I like it because it echoes the fact that we are all one species, one family. All our divisions are artificial. If you think about it, looking at the planet from space, there's no such thing as England, America, China, Italy, India, Russia. They don't exist. It's just land and sea on a ball floating in space. People have created these areas, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely brilliant. The problem is when we start fighting each other. It's sort of built into us, isn't it? You get a primary school, an elementary school, and all the children play together because they're all part of one school. And then they go to the secondary school. And perhaps in their town there are 2 secondary schools, one on one side of the road and one on the other side of the road. Instantly, they are in 2 tribes, and they are rivals and enemies. In fact, they're competitors, and that actually we thrive on. So the secret to world peace is not to fight each other, but to make friends with each other, to learn about each other and share all the good things. You get some people, us Brits are terrible at it. They go to Spain and the first thing they want to do is find an English pub and an English cafe where they can have a full English breakfast. No, no, no. When you're in Spain, you want to enjoy everything that is Spanish. Drink Spanish wine. Eat Spanish food. Learn a bit of the language. For me as a Brit, it's the same. When I'm in France, I want to absorb everything French. When I'm in Germany, dann wünsche ich deutsche Wein trinken. Itoje kakta yabwil vrasir. We are friends, we are neighbours, we are one family living on one planet. Let us live together in peace and prosperity. Come on, it's not rocket science. We can do it.
I'm 100% with you, sir.
Saying we've been lied to is an understatement. Today we're going to be talking about why this never happened. The firmament being a vault over us, or you could call it a curvature, a dome, separating us from the waters above, from the waters below. If you don't understand that, I'm going to tell you right now what that means. This is a diagram of the firmament, and it was actually in older Bibles, and you can also find it referenced in almost all of the other big religions. It's not just Christianity that says this. First, let's go to Genesis, the beginning of everything. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, remember that part, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters plural. Fast forwarding to verse 6, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault, meaning the firmament, and separated the water under the vault and the water above the vault. And it was so. God called the vault sky. So going back to this diagram, we see the waters above the firmament and the great deep, the waters below. Right above the great deep, you'll see Sheol. We'll go into Sheol in a second. The reason I feel like we've been lied to is the fact that NASA Space Agency has been telling us that people have been to the moon and how they're trying to go to Mars, and all of this knowing that we cannot leave the firmament. If you look up Wernher von Braun, he was one of the most talented rocket engineers in his day, and when he died, he put one simple verse on his tombstone, and that would be Psalms 19:1, referencing how the firmament shows God's handiwork. Obviously, with him working with the higher-ups, he can't say things like that while he's alive. So he did his big one and made sure it was put on his headstone. Oh yeah, TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes only. None of it is true. Anyway, let's go back to Sheol. You can find Sheol above the great deep, and biblically, that is basically darkness and separation from God and departed spirit reside there. There's a lot of debate about whether or not that's HE double hockey stick. All I know is it is definitely separation from God. And the reason why that is so important is because allegedly, not a space agency, originally was exploring the ocean, then switched to space. And as you guys can see, if there is a firmament, right, that means that we cannot leave the firmament, meaning that the whole space act is a ploy. I truly believe that they found out that space is actually under the ocean and wanted to distract us and tell us that it's above us, when really there are waters above and waters below. If you guys have heard the saying, as above, so below, that's literally what it is. Y'all remember a couple months ago when Congress said that there is a presence within the ocean? Let's go back to Genesis, where it says in verse 2, now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. So that's assuming he's talking about water. This is why I believe there's a demonic marine kingdom, because throughout the Bible, it equates the enemy to darkness. And it also says darkness was over the deep. And after the flood, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim became part of the demonic kingdom, and they drowned, right? So I would assume they would become part of the demonic marine kingdom, as well as their mothers, the mothers of demons, Siren, that were cursed to the sea for procreating with angels. This is why I find it so important to know heavenly history, because it helps you tie everything together. Believe it or not, they talk about the firmament more than you know. Even The Simpsons covered the firmament, and y'all know what they say about The Simpsons. A certain female politician with short blonde hair, I can't say her name because I don't want to get banned, he spoke about them trying to break the firmament multiple times, but it just went right over everybody's head. In a nutshell, we live under a dome. We are not able to leave the dome. Go in your Bible and read about the Tower of Babel, and that'll answer all your questions. If you guys want me to do a video on that so that you don't have to go look for it, let me know in the comments, but as always, make sure you like and follow.
If the moon is inside the firmament, couldn't they have technically been to the moon?
It's so crazy how they change things.
Exactly. I believe the Roman Empire became a church. When Rome crumbled as a political entity, its power didn't vanish. It transformed. The wealth, the authority, the influence, it all consolidated under the Vatican. Think about it. Where's all the gold, the artifacts, the treasures of the Roman Empire? They're all in the Vatican's vaults. They didn't lose their empire, they just rebranded it into a spiritual one. The Catholic Church took Rome's hierarchical system, its structure of command, and replaced emperors with popes. It's the same empire but cloaked in divinity, and it worked. The church spread across continents just as Rome had once conquered lands. And the British Empire? They didn't collapse. It pivoted to financial dominance. They became the banks. The British East India Company gave way to the Bank of England. Instead of ruling colonies, they rule economies. It's subtle, almost invisible, but far more effective.
This is just a theory, not a fact.
I believe this. I've said the Roman Empire evolved over time.
To all my out-of-towners, don't wear this hat in LA. That's the original Swamp Compton Crips. And don't wear this hat in LA. That's the neighborhood Compton Crips and the schoolyard Crips. Be careful. Don't wear this hat right here. These are the Hustler Crips. Alright? This hat right here, Carver Park Compton Crips. I warned you. This hat right here, Project Watts Crips, Black Bandit Crips. Be careful. These hats right here, Gangster Crips is gonna wear that, so don't even put that on. This Tennessee hat, I wouldn't wear it neither. The 5-1 Trouble Gangster Crips is gonna wear that. This OKC hat, don't wear that. Gangster Crips gonna wear that, and the Hoovers is gonna wear that too. This hat right here, 6 Deuce Brims in San Diego. Don't wear that. 6 Deuce East Coast Crips is gonna wear these ones too though. The Red Yankee, Rolling 20 Bloods, Neighborhood Pyru, Inglewood Pyru. Neighborhood Pyru might wear this too, but these ones, Northerners is gonna wear that. Don't even put that on. This one right here, Crenshaw Mafia Bloods and Mob Pyru. Don't put that hat on, twin. This LSU hat right here, that's the Denver Lane Bloods and the Osage Legend Crips. Don't wear that. The Notre Dame hat, anything with 9 Deuce, example, 9 Deuce Hoovers. So don't wear it. To all my Gators, don't wear this. That's the Watergate Crips. Makes sense? This one right here, Dodge City Crips in San Pedro. This one right here, Compton Neighborhood Pyrus. You don't want to wear this, that's the 4 Corner Block Crips, alright? And you don't want to wear that, that's the Marvin Gangster Crips, you hear me? Don't wear this hat over here neither, that's the Bedrock Gangster Crips. All my Jordan people, you don't want to wear the Jordan hat in LA. That stands for the Jungles. The Black P Stones, yeah, it stands for the J's. For any reason you see that Jordan upside down, that's the Grape Street Watts Crips right there. Gotta pay attention. Grape Street is also gonna wear this Gucci hat, so be careful. East Coast Crips is gonna wear wear this, so I wouldn't wear that. Now off tops, anything Playboys is gonna rock that, mandatory. And don't wear this hat. Fruitown Brims and Pyrus is gonna wear that. These hats right here, you called it. The Hoovers got that. Even this Hollister hat right here, the Swans is gonna wear that. The Mad Swans, the Family Swans, and the Rolling 20 Bloods is gonna wear that too. This YSL hat, that's an alliance between Schoolyards and Shoreline. Shout out to them. Now if you a Dirk fan and you rocking this OTF, that's gonna stand for Inglewood Families and the 40s, and pretty much anything with an F in it. Don't wear this Calvin Klein hat out here neither. That stands for Crip Killer out here. For some reason, people think these hats are safe to wear, but every gang member wears these hats. This is like the easiest hat. This is like the starter kit for gangbangers. So don't wear nothing LA involved. Don't wear none of these hats when you in LA. Be careful out here.
Wow, what about a Mickey Mouse hat from Disneyland?
We wanted to cut somebody's life expectancy in half at any age, put them in isolation. There was something we called a broken heart syndrome or caregiver syndrome. You know, when you have a companion that you've been with for 40 or 50 or 60 years and that companion passes, very shortly thereafter the second companion goes. And
I always thought that was a myth, like a nice tale of heartbreak and love.
When we call it the broken heart syndrome, it was nothing to do with a broken heart, but I mean the emotional state, I mean the frequency in their body changes. And when this surrenders. When the mind surrenders, the body surrenders. So you know that when we isolate human beings, it has a dramatic effect on life expectancy. Some of the worst science and research that we do is when we study components of the body or cells from the human body in isolation. You take a cell out and you put it in a petri dish and you look how it behaves in vitro, and then you assume when you put that cell back into the body that it's going to behave that way, because cells exist in communities too.
Being around people shortens my life. To each their own.
Eiffel Tower's true purpose is far different than we've been told. Most think of it as a symbol of Parisian pride and a marvel of the industrial age, but what if it was designed with something much more revolutionary in mind? In 1889, as Paris prepared for the World's Fair, the Eiffel Tower rose over the city, seemingly a mere engineering showcase. Yet Nikola Tesla, the visionary who pioneered wireless energy, was in Paris around that time, and he met with Gustave Eiffel himself. Imagine this. Tesla shared his vision of free wireless electricity for all, a way to power the world without wires, a leap that could shake the foundations of industry. Reports suggest Eiffel didn't just listen, but wove Tesla's ideas into his tower's design. Those intricate metal beams, they weren't just for aesthetics. The structure's unique shape might have acted as a massive antenna. And this is where things grow stranger. During its construction, there were eerie reports, strange lights, unexplained electrical phenomena, even sparks that locals swore appeared around the tower at night. Newspapers hinted at experiments happening in the shadows, mysterious trials that no one could quite explain. Could this be why the Eiffel Tower's story was altered?
AI generated. Joe Rogan could never speak so smoothly.
February 6th, 2025. As we watch 50 Cent slowly dismantle the BMF brand, out of nowhere, Kanye West posts this. Of all the people to come to Diddy's defense, Kanye was the last person I expected.
Puff Daddy, you fed?
But Kanye's support for Diddy further highlights something we've all been thinking. Where are Diddy's friends?
Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested.
Okay, let's start with Jay-Z. According to his lawyer, Diddy and Jay were barely even friends.
And Mr. Carter has nothing to do with Mr. Combs.
Yet Diddy openly says that other than his mother, the only other person that calls him Sean
There's only one person.
is Jay-Z.
Yeah, nobody else could call me Sean.
Let's not forget the first Rock Nation brunch was held at Diddy's house. And what about Chris Brown? The first celebrity to come to his defense when that Rihanna incident happened was Diddy.
I don't know him.
This is the clip where he sat there whilst Ellen, of all people, fires off at him.
Talk going on with Chris Brown being at your place in Miami.
Yeah, because it's my house. And I'm allowed to give my house to whoever I want to give my house to.
Sure.
And number two is, I'm the type of person that I don't cast a stone or cast a judgment on anybody. And so if a friend or friends ask me for a favor, then I'm going to be there for a friend.
And then there's Diddy's so-called friend DJ Khaled.
You know, we brothers.
We all know how silent he was when pressed about the Middle East conflict.
Problem is this. I can eat like 5 of these back to back.
But when he has a new album to promote,
Hey, yo, Drake!
he's quick to throw people's names out there.
Drake vocals come in, yeah!
So when you see that Drake's just rebuked him,
In the name of Jesus!
you have to understand why. I mean, where's Khaled been this last year while Drake's been getting tucked in by Kendrick?
Yeah, I just don't like any of you.
And then lastly, Rick Ross.
BBL Drizzy.
Whilst he's been trying to antagonize 50 Cent,
Take a picture with Rick Ross.
he's been quieter than a church mouse when it comes to Diddy.
What do I owe the play?
The same friend he bought a house across the road from.
We the neighborhood association now.
And the same friend he one time said he would die for.
The Rock Boys down to die for Diddy.
Now back to this beef between 50 Cent and Big Meech. Whilst Meech was sat in prison, 50 Cent paid for his son's acting classes, only for him to be released from prison, and then align himself with the only man I believe 50 Cent hates more than Ja Rule.
You can't dim my light. I don't give a fuck.
It all boils down to one simple principle.
Value royalty above all.
Jay-Z denying not knowing Puff like that says a lot about what, he's trying to hide.
Existed for tens of thousands of years before we're dating it. We really wouldn't know. We would have evidence.
For that reason, because they date a lot of stuff based on the site that they found it. So if there's organic material at the site that they found it, and I've found it's a kind of like a smoking gun piece in all of this, is all the vases. Flinders Petrie is the great Egyptologist, the first guy to really start applying engineering principles from the industrial age to this stuff. He found one, he talks about one in his work that was 1/40th of an inch thick. Wow. 1/40th of an inch thick.
Wow.
50,000 plus of them were discovered beneath the step pyramid of Djoser. He collected them all up, and so these things stretch back way back into time. There's pre-dynastic artifacts from pre-dynastic burials. But there's always these sort of arguments, well, can you do this by hand, can you not? And so recently, there's been some work done. I've been working with a couple of guys, and for the first time, they've actually been able to scan this thing using a structured light scanner and define the specific elements of precision on it, and it's just astounding. Like, this has had to have been made on a machine.
If something existed for tens of thousands of years before we're dating it, we really wouldn't know. We would have evidence.
For that reason, because they date a lot of stuff based on the site that they found it. So if there's organic material at the site that they found it, I've found it's a kind of like a smoking gun piece in all of this, is all the vases. Flinders Petrie is the great Egyptologist, the first guy to really start applying engineering principles from the industrial age to this stuff. He found one, he talks about one in his work that was 1/40th of an inch thick. Wow. 1/40th of an inch thick. 50,000 plus of them were discovered beneath the step pyramid of Djoser. He collected them all up, and so these things stretch back way back into time. There's pre-dynastic artifacts from pre-dynastic burials. But there's always these sort of arguments, well, can you do this by hand, can you not? And so recently, there's been some work done. I've been working with a couple of guys, and for the first time, they've actually been able to scan this thing using a structured light scanner and define the specific elements of precision on it, and it's just astounding. Like, this has had to have been made on a machine.
Yeah, I can only imagine what this will teach us.
With scanning technology, it's now become apparent that there are many major voids within the Great Pyramid. Right above the Grand Gallery, there's what looks like a second Grand Gallery that has been identified with remote scanning. And new chambers, one of them has even been opened up. It's true that the ancient Egyptians did haul big objects on sleds on wet sand. There are even reliefs that show the process, where an individual is standing on the front of the sledge pouring water down to lubricate the sand underneath. But that is not going to help you get dozens of 70-ton granite blocks 300 feet in the air to form the roof of the King's Chamber and the floor of the chamber above it and the roof of that chamber and the floor of the chamber above that, and so on and so forth. Wet sand never got those objects up there. Somehow they were lifted up there. Now, yeah, ramps are proposed as the solution, but where are the remains of those ramps? If you're going to carry blocks weighing up to 2 or 3 tons right to the top of the Great Pyramid to complete your work, you're going to need a ramp that's going to extend out into the desert for more than a mile.
Sound waves.
At a 10-degree slope. And
I
it's
think sound
calculated
waves.
that a 10-degree slope is about the maximum slope that human labor can haul objects up a ramp. It's going to have to be made of very solid material, almost as solid as the pyramid itself. Where is it? We don't see any trace of those so-called ramps that are supposed to have been involved in the construction of the pyramid. I think we don't know.
They're drinking coffee too? I'm just going to make peace with the parasite. Coffee is my thing.
This is undoubtedly the most horrifying execution method in human history, the heretic's fork. This deceptively simple device consisted of a metal rod with a forked end on both sides. One fork was positioned under the chin, ensuring the victim's head was held high, while the other end was pressed against the sternum. With the heretic's fork fastened around the neck, victims were unable to lie down, lower their heads, or even speak. The sharp ends of the fork would dig into the flesh, causing immense pain if the victim tried to move their head in any direction. It was commonly used to extract confessions, with the victim often suspended or tied in a way that compounded the agony. Though the physical torment was undeniably severe, it was the prolonged nature of the punishment, often lasting days, that made the heretic's fork truly diabolical. Deprived of sleep and movement, victims were driven to the brink of madness. The heretic's fork remains an unsettling testament to the human capacity for inventing methods of cruelty, all in the name of orthodoxy and control.
People won't want to hear this, but what you avoid controls you. If you avoid tough conversations, your relationships suffer. If you avoid risk, your business will suffer. If you avoid failure, your growth will suffer. If you think having uncomfortable conversations is hard, wait until you see the result of not having uncomfortable conversations. Much harder. At least for me, I just try and face the thing that I'm avoiding and constantly ask myself, like, what is that thing that I'm trying not to look at? And then force myself to stare at it, because usually the thing that scares you the most is the thing that you need most to face to move forward.
Really
powerful. So this
powerful.
NFL player accidentally lost his Super Bowl ring while surfing one day. But although it could have been anywhere in the ocean, where it really went just blew his mind. You see, since John Schmidt had been in the Hawaii water for 6 hours, his hand shrunk, causing his ring to fall off at some point. But since John didn't realize it was missing until he got all the way back to shore, he knew that it was gone forever. He was just devastated since he had worked his heart out for this ring. No one even thought the Jets had a chance of winning Super Bowl III, but John had somehow helped his team pull off one of the biggest upsets ever, despite literally having pneumonia. So John just desperately searched for his ring for 3 entire hours until he couldn't even move anymore. But although he was eventually forced to buy a replica and just move on, that's when he suddenly got a random phone call 40 years later. As it turns out, a Hawaii lifeguard named John Ernstberg had somehow stumbled across the ring in the water at some point. But since he didn't know what it was, he just gave it to his wife, who stashed it in their closet. And it was only when this couple passed away that their niece was shocked to finally get it verified as a Super Bowl ring. But although she easily could have sold it for $10,000, she and her husband decided that they had to return it to John since he was the one who had earned it. And John was so grateful that he instantly flew them out so he could thank them in person.
Suddenly, 40 years later.
Charisma is not about being extroverted. Charisma is about being interested. To be interesting, you be interested. Research has found that when we produce dopamine in conversation, it actually makes you more memorable. Dopamine, it's the chemical of motivation. It's the chemical of pleasure and excitement. And when you're asked about things that make you feel excited, you actually produce dopamine and you create what are called mental markers. Dr. Medina calls them mental post-it notes. That you're with someone and they ask you a dopamine-worthy question. Your brain goes, ooh, this person makes me feel good. I'm going to remember them. So how do we produce dopamine? You literally use dopamine triggering words. Do not ask, what do you do anymore? What do you do is really asking, what are you worth? If we're going to get rid of it, what are we going to replace it with? Are things that someone defines themselves by that get them excited. That's a very, very simple swap, but it allows someone to say, all we're doing is we're trying to sub out autopilot questions for dopamine producing questions.
I like this lady.
To this day,
Oh, is this why people often think I'm flirting with them?
no one knows what ripped those Soviet soldiers apart. Are you guys ready for this story? So how do we know the story is even true? Because the information came from journals kept by the Finnish soldiers during the Winter War. So November 30th, 1939 was the beginning of the Winter War, and the local Sami people warned the Soviet soldiers to stay away from Mount Vatvara and the Kibani Mountains. They told them there was bad spirits and demons on those places, such as Otso. I'm sorry, but do you guys remember that scene from Monsters, Inc. when Sully pops through the doors and he's in the mountains? Anyway, and Veron Susi, that actually looks like a werewolf and moons. You know, they didn't necessarily believe in werewolves like we think of from the movies with a man, full moon, but they did believe in shape-shifting. But the Soviets totally dismissed them, thinking the locals were just trying to dissuade them, and they wanted to take the high ground, War 101. This account actually takes place on the Kibani Mountains, not Mount Vatvara, and here's where it gets super interesting. The Finns let them. They literally hid and watched them climb up the Kibney Mountain. Now, the historical accounts say that there was only very specific narrow paths up and down the mountains, so the Finns posted units all around the mountain. I'm sorry, we gotta take a minute to appreciate the Finn soldiers because they were so badass. With their camo, they could hide right down in the snow, and they would put snow in their mouths so that the Soviets couldn't even see their breath. They counted the Soviets going up the mountain. That's how they knew there were 100 of them. So the Finns were posted below for several nights, and then one night, they heard howling and screaming and constant gunfire. Well, the Finns, being separated in units, thought that maybe one of the other units had engaged with the Soviets, but that's not what happened. After 2 nights of screaming, gunfire, grenade blasts, it fell silent. Dawn of the 3rd day, a Finnish patrol went up the mountain and came back with a report. Every single one of them was dead.
Ooh.
It was reported that their limbs and heads had been torn off, that limbless torsos were hanging from the trees, some of the bodies had been disemboweled, ammunition casings everywhere. It had appeared as if they were torn apart by a large animal. So had they been attacked by somebody else, where were the other dead bodies? If they were attacked by animals, how come there were no dead animals? 100 armed Soviet soldiers completely annihilated without a trace of any other being. Also during wartime, because of morale, the Finns would have been quick to say this was them that pulled off such a major attack, but no one claimed it. And that's why this is such a big mystery to this day.
Reminds me of the Dyatlov Pass incident.
If you really want to get your mind blown, type up on Google the words pale blue dot. And what you're going to see is this black, inky blackness, and right in the middle, about maybe 2 pixels large, a little blue fuzzy dot. What that dot is when we sent out the Voyager spacecraft on one of its last commands, we told it, turn around and take a picture of home, of Earth. Everything you have ever known, you've ever learned, everything you ever loved, everything you ever feared, every person that ever lived in history, every person that ever died, ever, is all on that tiny little blue dot hurtling through the vacuum and inky blackness of space. That's uncomfortable for some people to think about. And then when you think about the size of the universe, modern, right now, most physicists and cosmologists agree that the visible horizon, meaning as far as we can see in any direction, from one end to the other of the universe, is about 40 billion light years. Now, what's a light year? It's the time it takes and the distance traveled by a photon of light in 1 year. So how fast does light actually travel? 186,000 miles per second. That's 7.5 times around our planet in 1 second. Multiply that to a year, and now multiply that to 40 billion years, right? That is an enormous distance, and that's only 10% of the actual size of the universe as predicted now by some scientists, because most of the universe is too big, it's too far away, the light will never reach Earth. So now you're talking about a universe 100 billion light years, human beings, this infinitesimally small speck right in the middle, right? As mind-blowing as that is, if you take one hydrogen atom, Avogadro's number, 6.23 or 6.28 times 10 to the negative 23 in size, that's roughly the same order of magnitude that atom is to us as we are to the universe. We sit right in the middle of the scale of the universe.
The Mohenjo-Daro was this ancient city that was discovered in the 1900s, city that was 5,000 years old. It was so technologically advanced for its time, and yet it's written nowhere. Like, this city, it was huge. No one really knows what happened to it, but they found a bunch of skeletons that looked like they just died instantly.
Oh gosh.
And not only that, when they tested the soil around this city that they dug up, high levels of radiation.
Oh gosh.
The sand had turned to glass. Everything that would indicate that there was a nuclear bomb at one point. And what's fascinating too, to me, that ancient story of those 2 cities in India that were fighting, and they had like the flying ships, and they had these weapons that sounded a lot like nuclear bombs and stuff, right? Well, the name of that weapon is called Brahmastra bomb. But what that is, it's a supernatural weapon that is one of the most destructive, powerful, and irresistible weapons mentioned in Hinduism. The description of it is every bit of a nuclear bomb. Remember when Oppenheimer said, "Now I become death, destroyer of worlds"? That's from the Hindu scripture. And so it makes you wonder if that this ancient technology that was presented by the fallen angels and whatnot, could it have been a nuclear weapon? Have you ever heard of the twin paradox? A set of twins.
This is the space one?
Yeah.
Yeah!
I saw it was Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Was talking about it. You have a set of twins, and they're both 5 years old.
Okay.
This is going to blow your mind.
You take one of those twins, put them in a rocket ship, and send them to space, but they're traveling 90% the speed of light. And what that does, when you're traveling that fast, the clock is ticking, like time slows down, basically.
Okay.
Slows down by 44%.
Wow. How do we know that?
Just math.
It's called math, Lily. Okay.
And so that means they're aging slower. But if you were to take that same 5-year-old and send them to space and going 99.9% the speed of light, by the time they took a trip that was 5 years for them, when they would come back to Earth, they would be 10 years old.
Okay.
And their twin would be 110 years old.
The twin on Earth?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how just like light and time and stuff moves.
Is that where billionaires are going?
Don't
Are they
know.
traveling at light speed so they live longer?
Don't know. But we saw this thing where all these pictures of Walt Disney World, his fingers are always like this. The rumor is that Disney went in to every single picture of Walt Disney and edited out him holding a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then you pointed out to me at Disney, all the cast members.
Wait. Whenever you're going down a hallway to direct them,
It's not a cigarette thing, though.
Why not?
why wouldn't it be?
Well, we were-
Why do you wave like this?
What we are trained to do is
She did work for Disney too.
It's a cultural thing because
Yep.
this is offensive
Mhm,
in some
mhm. That's right.
cultures. You do this or you do this with a whole
Yep.
I did do the Disney college classes, and one of my professors did say it had something to do with the
Yep.
cigarettes.
It has to. It absolutely has to.
What are you doing? Like a roundabout way to agree.
Absolutely has to.
Because all
The
these
official
things of, like,
training is because of culture.
Well, yeah, because they're not going to say anything about it.
Yeah,
I'm
because
saying
all
that.
these like really famous pictures of Walt Disney, he always had a cigarette.
Yeah, but it's not like he was like he smoked cigarettes so much that he probably like died from them, right?
Did you not know? He got lung cancer.
He got lung cancer, which is sad, but it's definitely why they do it. 100%.
Yeah, flight attendants use it too. And in Indonesia, we do it like this, with your thumb.
I want to send a message to Elon Musk and the likes of Elon Musk. And I want someone to send this video to him. My dear friend, and I'll call you a friend. My name is Mari. I am the servant of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the true and only God, the creator of heaven and earth, everything that is visible and invisible. If you think you can send a rocket to Jupiter, Mars, and whichever planet out there, all these planets were created by one word that was uttered from the mouth of this Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He is God. Created you, created me, created everyone, everything in heaven and on earth. And sooner or later, you and I and you, my dear friend, we will face Jesus Christ, the judge of everything.
Amen.
And I can assure you, there, no secret society will come to your rescue, no wealth, no treasure, no fame, no power, no prestigious life, nothing will come to your rescue. It is time for you and I and all of us, and everyone who thinks they can be God on earth. Your time is now, my dear friend. I am begging you to let go. And even if they come and strip you from your wealth, and strip you from your fame, and kill you, let it be. Don't ever lose Jesus, my dear friend, like Jeffrey Epstein did, and the likes of him. Do you want to know where Jeffrey Epstein is? I'll tell you. I'll tell you where he is. He is begging for mercy.
Take a look very closely at this 1913 photo of Parramatta Road in Sydney, Australia. What do you notice? On the left you see power lines, but on the right is different. We see the same poles around the world, here, here, and here. We have been lied to about our past, and Tartarian advanced technology has been removed from our history books. Australia was not immune to the mud flood, but perhaps only found when the waters shifted away from the land. But look, this photo of the same road in Sydney was taken 40 years later, and you can argue that much hasn't changed, except for the transportation being used. In my opinion, as I can only guess what the poles were used for, is that the advanced technology was passed down by the Tartarians. Australia may have been underwater for 250 years or so for it to be founded in what they say 1788. Don't believe the information they provided us and question everything.
I think one side is power and the other side is communication lines.
There was this man named Randy Weaver. He was a Green Beret in the Army. He meets his wife, Vicky, by a place on Ruby Ridge. Apparently, he was reached out to become an informant for the ATF, and he said no. And then they're like, he has an illegal firearm on his property. The FBI and the ATF, they team up, and they start surveil him. So they send a team out there in ghillie suits. His 14-year-old son, Sam, walking his dog along a trail outside their home. His dog starts barking. The guy gets up, FBI shoots the dog. The boy sees some men in ghillie suits. He takes up his gun that he has, shoots this FBI agent, not knowing who he was, and then the boy starts running back to his house. The FBI agent shoots his son in the back. And things just hit the fan. They shoot Randy in the arm at one point, and unfortunately hit his wife in the head while she's holding their daughter. And they have to bring in one of Randy Weaver's old friends from the Army to come and talk to him to convince him to walk out of the house.
His commander.
And guess what? They find out he was not doing anything wrong, anything illegal. He wanted to live off the grid with his wife and his family. The FBI awarded the men that were fighting against Randy Weaver. They gave them awards.
That's crazy,
and so
man.
I watched this I remember hearing about it a long time ago, but then I watched the podcast with his daughter.
Wow. Oh, sugar. Ooh. Ooh. Whoa. Human parasites are my nightmare fuel.
I was on the streets. I was surviving, and one Sunday night, Monday morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm rummaging around where there's factories and offices, no people inside, no houses. And it was pouring down with rain. I was still hungover. I was thinking about getting my next drink, and I dropped down to my hands and knees, and I started to cry like a baby. You know, from the stomach. And the crazy thing is I wasn't crying because I'd lost everything, my wife and my kids. The reason why I was crying right there and then is I realized I couldn't stop drinking. After 7 suicide attempts, and two actually died. I looked up to the sky, and I don't know why, because I'm a priest and I don't believe in God. I looked up to the sky that day, and I looked up and I said, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. 30 seconds later, and this weirdness has followed me since that day. A guy came around the corner, his name was Derek, a little Bible in his hand. He'd missed his last bus home from the Bible study. He'd been walking an hour. He took a shortcut he's never done before, and he came upon me. And he said, hey, buddy, do you need help? And I just started crying and said, I'm dying, I don't know what to do. So he took me back to his house. Now, get ready to be mind blown, guys, if you've not heard my story before. He took me back to his house. He's like, Rob, you can stay for as long as you want. Blow up mattress, you're great. You're fed and showered for the first time in a year. But you got to come to these AA meetings. Well, I hated them meetings. It's like all old men pissing and moaning. And, you know, I'm 20 years sober and I'm pissed off and I've had a bad day. It's like, oh. But it's a dry bed, so I went with him. So I'm sat there in this meeting thinking, there's a restroom. So if I can go in the restroom, sneak through the window, go and steal some vodka, get back in the window was this big. I was never going to get through that window, but I tried. I went back and I sat down all pissed off, and people going, my name's Bill, and all of a sudden this guy said, my name's John and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And he spoke from the book, and he spoke with confidence. And I'm like, holy shit. So when the meeting was over, I did one of them walks, which is probably 20 yards, which felt like the Sahara Desert, because now I'm asking for help off somebody, you know? And it goes over, I said, hey, John, my name's Rob, will you sponsor me? And he said, no. And I'm like, no. And just before the whole ground swallowed me up, he said, I'll be your spiritual advisor for 12 weeks. Okay, that's weird. What do I need to do? Well, bring a dictionary and a big book. I don't need a dictionary. I went to Oxford. He looked me straight in the eye. I said, bring a dictionary and a big book. And he gave me the address. So for 12 weeks on a Wednesday night, I left Derek's at 6. I walked to John's, got in for 7. I couldn't go before 1 minute to 7. I could walk up, knock on the door. This is relevant to the story. And 1 minute to 8, a through conversation, okay, time to go. Like, we're halfway through a conversation. But what he taught me, what he took me through was mind-blowing. So on the last day with him, I hugged him, I thanked him, and he said, Rob, your life's going to change from tomorrow. You're going to go on and change the world. I'm like, I don't know too much, you know, John, I'm in Derek's basement on a blow-up mattress. Nobody knows I'm there. Your life will change. So I goes home, you know, I felt differently, I walked differently, I got my cockiness back, got my confidence back, you know, and the next day I'm cleaning the house because that was my job now, while Derek's at work. And at 12 o'clock the door goes, I'm like, Derek? He's like, yeah. I said, what are you doing home? So the guy sweeping the floor at the factory has just resigned. Do you want a part-time job sweeping the floor? Like, hell, wow. Oh, so I got back in the car. Later that week, it turned into a full-time job. I was working with people that are getting well. I was positive, even though I was living in Derek's house. I was confident. People were getting well around me. Like, everybody started to look up to me. And 2 or 3 weeks later, we got our first pay packet, which back in the day was cash stapled to an envelope. So I went to the gas station, man. I'm all excited. I'm going to get John a teddy bear. It's all I could afford, a little teddy bear like this. And I get him a card. So I'm all excited. I'm like giddy. Wait till he finds out what I've been doing. So, hey, to John, thank you so much for introducing me to God. He took the compulsion away to drink. That's what I wrote. And I walked the same route as I did it for 12 weeks. When I got there, the curtains look a bit dirtier, but that's fine. It's been a week or two. Knocked on the door, no answer. Knocked on again, no answer. Next minute, the woman on the right-hand side apartment comes out and says, can I help you? I said, yeah, where's John moved to? Is he still there? John? He says, yeah, John, your neighbour. Oh, I've only been here for 3 months. I've not seen anybody there, but I'm new around here. So I let her close the door. That's a crazy person or drunk. So I went on to the left then and I knocked on the door a little bit harder than I should maybe. Big guy came. What do you want? So where's John moved to? John who? Like, what's wrong with you? Your neighbour. He went on to tell me that apartment is derelict and there used to be tape on it. And if I did walk over that door, I would fall down to the basement below. It's derelict, it's dangerous, you cannot go in. And I'm like, what's wrong with these guys, you know? So I went back to the meeting where I'd met John, and I went in and the chairman went, Robert, thank God for that. Somebody, thank you. Do you recognise me? Of course I do, mate, come in. I says, does John still come here? He said, John who? I said, over near the coffee machine, we sponsored it, da-da-da-da-da.
Ooh.
Rob, we saw you over near the coffee machine speaking to yourself. We've never found that, man. When I started getting wealthier,
that's crazy.
They put the best private detective in Manchester on him, and they could never trace that man.
Wow. Let me know how you feel about this in the comment. It's creepy, man. John is a ghost. Or an angel.
So they have been using the sun, which is Helios, which is the real name for the sun. The sun, Helios, is the entrance point to get into this 3D realm here. So they're using that as a vortex in-out point.
Now that's the significance of the 39 steps. But also Saturn, I think you'd mentioned earlier that Saturn was our original sun.
Well, Saturn was the original sun, yes. Yeah. And Saturn, yes. And Saturn got pushed out. It was, in truth, a more efficient sun and a better sun. But then they somehow they caught that sun and imprisoned it. The ring around the sun, the ring around Saturn, is an imprisonment. It's imprisoned. Saturn isn't bad. Saturn is another word for where they take Satan from, because it's the controlling force. It's Capricorn.
Wow. But is this related to the ring makers of Saturn?
Yes. Yes, and Lord of the Rings, and the principle is that. So the ring, one ring to rule them all, would be the ring that is around Saturn.
There was a discovery done talking about Egypt, about ancient mummies, where they found traces of what in their bodies? Cocaine. Cocaine doesn't grow on that continent. It only grew in South America, the coca leaf. How in the hell is our coca leaf and the derivative of, the processing of, to create cocaine found in some mummies thousands of years ago in Egypt?
So you're saying these ancient mummies were partying with cocaine?
Yeah. Careful. I don't know they're partying with it, but anyway, my point is that is a fact. You can see it. They pulled the traces up. How did that happen if these ancient trade routes didn't exist, right? There was no crossing the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean. There's a lot of mystery with our ancients and our ancestors that I think it's foolhardy for us to just be dismissive and say, oh, they were primitive, they were savages. No, they weren't. Look at what the Aztecs were able to do with a calendar and predict even lunar cycles, and to include...
Because they did trade like we do, maybe?
The incident when Wendy Williams fell?
Yeah.
So remember when I was talking about how she was shit-talking Beyonce before, right?
Beyonce's gonna use a surrogate so she can maintain her body?
This is going on for months and months that she's been shit-talking Beyonce. Because there was one I didn't know about. In one of her gossip episodes, she starts it off with, someone's jealous of Adele.
Guess who's jealous of Adele?
And then she goes, it's Beyonce.
Beyonce!
So Wendy Williams is saying all this stuff about Beyonce, right? A month later, what happens? She finally fell. And then, you know what's crazy? I don't know if it's Beyonce or they're trying to put it on dementia.
I think she's losing memory. Have you guys noticed that?
How dare him?
On the Wikipedia, you know how when you search up celebrity health stuff, you actually have to go deep and search it. On her Wikipedia, and when you search up Wendy Williams, everywhere she has dementia, Just because it's they're trying to discredit her from all her saying. She really got targeted because she just kept shit-talking Beyonce.
You said that we always end up being ruled by the elites of some kind. Can you explain this law, this idea?
So this comes from a Italian political philosopher from about 100 years ago named Robert. I'm going to let you pronounce the Italian, Michels. Or Michaels. And then it was, I learned about it through a famous book on politics, probably the best book on politics written in the 20th century, called The Machiavellians, by this guy, James Burnham, who has had a big impact on me. But in The Machiavellians, he resurrects what he calls the sort of Italian realist school of political philosophy from the 10s and 20s. And these were people, to be clear, this was not like a Mussolini thing. These were people who were trying to understand the actual mechanics of how politics actually works. So to get to the actual sort of mechanical substance of how the political machine operates. And this guy, Michel, had this concept he ended up with called the iron law of oligarchy. And so what the iron law of oligarchy, and I mean, take a step back to say what he meant by oligarchy, because it has multiple meanings. So basically, in classic political theory, there's basically three forms of government at core. There's democracy, which is rule of the many. There's oligarchy, which is rule of the few. And there's monarchy, which is rule of the one. And you can just use that as a general framework of any government you're going to be under is going to be one of those. Just a mechanical observation, without even saying which one's good or bad, just a structural observation. And so the question that Michel's asked was, is there such a thing as democracy? Is there actually such a thing as democracy? Is there ever actually direct government? And what he did was he mounted this sort of incredible historical exploration of whether democracies had ever existed in the world. And the answer basically is almost never. And we could talk about that. But the other thing he did was he sought out the most democratic private organization in the world that he could find at that point, which he concluded was some basically communist German auto workers union that was wholly devoted to the workers of the world uniting, back when that was the hot thing. And he went in there and he's like, okay, this is the organization out of all organizations on planet Earth that must be operating as a direct democracy. And he went in there and he's like, oh, nope, there's a leadership class. There's 6 guys at the top and they control everything. And then they lead the rest of the membership along, by the nose, which is, of course, the story of every union. The story of every union is always the story of, there's a Jimmy Hoffa in there, kind of running the thing. We just saw that with the dock workers union, right? There's a guy. And he's in charge. And by the way, the number 2 is his son, right? That's not an accident, right? So the iron law of oligarchy basically says democracy is fake. There's always a ruling class. There's always a ruling elite structurally. And he said the reason for that is because the masses can't organize. Right. What's the fundamental problem? Whether the mass is 25,000 people in a union or 250 million people in a country, the masses can't organize. The majority cannot organize. Only a minority can organize. And to be effective in politics, you must organize. And therefore, every political structure in human history has been some form of a small organized elite ruling a large and dispersed majority. Every single one. The Greeks and the Florentines had brief experiments in direct democracy, and they were total disasters. In Florence, I forget the name of it. It was called like the Workers' Revolt or something like that. There was like a 2-year period where they basically experimented with direct democracy during the Renaissance, and it was a complete disaster. And they never tried it again. In the state of California, we have our own experiment on this, which is the proposition system, which is an overlay on top of the legislature. And it, anybody who looks at it for 2 seconds concludes it's been a complete disaster. It's just a catastrophe, and it's caused enormous damage to the state. And so basically, the presumption that we are in a democracy is just sort of by definition fake. Now, good news for the U.S., it turns out the founders understood this. And so, of course, they didn't give us a direct democracy. They gave us a representative democracy, right? And so they built the oligarchy into the system in the form of Congress and the executive branch and the judicial branch. But so anyway, so as a consequence, democracy is always and everywhere fake. There is always a ruling elite. And basically the lesson of the Machiavellians is you can deny that if you want, but you're fooling yourself. The way to actually think about how to make a system work and maintain any sort of shred of freedom is to actually understand that is actually what's happening.
And lucky for us, the founders saw this and figured out a way to, given that there's going to be a ruling elite, how to create a balance of power among that elite.
Yes.
So it doesn't get out of hand.
And it was very clever, right?
Wow.
And, some of this was based on earlier experiments. Some of this, by the way, these were very, very smart people, right? And so they knew tremendous amounts of like Greek and Roman history. They knew the Renaissance history. The Federalist Papers, they argued this at great length. You can read it all. They ran like one of the best seminars in world history trying to figure this out. And they went through all this. And so they thought through it very carefully. But just I'll give you an example, which continues to be a hot topic. So, one way they did it is through the 3 branches of government, right? Executive, legislative, and judicial, sort of balance of powers. But the other way they did it was they sort of echoing what had been done earlier, I think, in the UK Parliament. They created the 2 different bodies of the legislature, right? And so the House and the Senate. And as you know, the House is apportioned on the basis of population, and the Senate is not, right? The small states have just as many senators as the big states. And then they made the deliberate decision to have the House get reelected every 2 years to make it very responsive to the will of the people. And they made the decision to have the Senate get reelected every 6 years so that it had more buffer from the passions of the moment. But what's interesting is they didn't choose one or the other, right? They did them both. And then to get legislation passed, you have to get through both of them. And so they built in like a second layer of checks and balances. And then there's 1,000 observations we could make about like how well the system is working today, and like how much does it live up to the ideal, and how much are we actually complying with the Constitution. And there's lots of open questions there. But, this system has survived for coming on 250 years with a country that has been spectacularly successful that I don't think, at least, I don't think any of us would trade this system for any other one. And so it's, one of the great all-time achievements.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we should say they were all pretty young relative to our current set of leaders.
Many in their 20s at the time. And like super geniuses. This is one of those things where it's just like, all right, something happened where there was a group of people where, nobody ever tested their IQs, but like these are Einsteins of politics. Yeah, an amazing thing. But anyway, I go through all that, which is they were very keen students of the actual mechanical practice of democracy, not fixated on what was desirable. They were incredibly focused on what would actually work, which is, I think the way to think about these things.
There were engineers of sort, not the fuzzy humanity students of sort.
They were shape rotators, not word cells.
I remember that. Wow, that meme came and went. I think you were central to that. You're central to a lot of memes.
I was.
You're the meme dealer and the meme popularizer.
That meme I get some credit for, and then the current thing is the other one I get some credit for. I don't know that I invented either one, but I popularized them.
Take credit and run with it.
So an elite billionaire saying that we are always ruled by the elites, that's not self-surfing at all.
On the one side, you've got people with traces of literal angel blood in their DNA. And these are called emperors and royal bloodlines. And diametrically opposed to this group, the polar opposite, as if one were the left hand and one were the right hand. Opposite. You've got the actual pure-blooded humans that have no traces of angel blood anywhere in their DNA. Now, on the side of those angel blood folk, how much angel blood you have determines how divine you are. Whereas on the other side, everybody with angel blood is an abomination. What do you mean, how much angel blood you have in your DNA?
Yep.
Well, most of us have it. Most of us have that angel blood. What am I talking about? I'm talking about all this right here. It's 2025. Y'all should know what I'm talking about by now. This is all for entertainment purposes. I'm a storyteller. And in today's tale, I'm just joking. In the days of Noah before the flood, some stars, and I mean angels, left their bodies in heaven and came down to the earth. Don't ask how a higher being can enter a lower reality if you've ever fired up a video game system and played any game whatsoever. If we can do that here, they can surely do that.
Yep.
Logic would follow. You don't have to believe any of this, but there's reason to. Some higher dimensional, immortal beings who had knowledge far above that of humans quit their immortal celestial bodies in heaven and manifest on the earth. How? Robots, I don't know. As the days of Noah were, so are we quickly approaching, I can say that. How'd they do it then? I don't know. Observe how they do it when they do it again. Because they're gonna. Angels came to earth and mated with women in the days of Noah. How'd they do that? Angels aren't given in marriage, neither do they marry. I said they left those bodies in heaven. Now I'm gonna weave you a real fanciful tale. There were 3 men and their 3 wives on Noah's ark that we need be concerned with. Noah and his wife were there too. But everyone on earth is descended from these 3 couples. Shem and his wife, Japheth and his wife, and Ham and his wife. Now this third one's the one we're talking about first. Ham and his wife had descendants like Nimrod, the first emperor of the world after the flood, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Egyptians. And we know that Ham's wife had dirty angel blood, and that's how there were giants in the land after the flood, like there were in the days before the flood. Because Ham and his wife's descendants included King Og of Bashan and Goliath and the Rephaim, who all had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, and were giants. Not that all of their descendants were giants, but that some of them were tells us enough. Ham's descendants went right after this stuff right here, and what do I mean? I mean technology. They carried the religion from the old world that got destroyed in a flood into the new world, and tried to call angels back down to be their gods, because the angels that were here got bound up in chains and thrown into hell when the earth got flooded, and all their children died in the flood and became demons, half angel, half human, unclean spirits. But they had a descendant on the ark, somebody that was long down the line, that DNA very diluted. They were humans, and they had a trace of that in their blood. Ham's wife. And their descendants became emperors with empires, claiming to be gods incarnate. Because of that trace amount of angel blood, they're divine. You see. Divine. But what do you mean divine? I thought they were unclean abominations. Well, you see, there's 2 different viewpoints here that are diametrically opposed to one another. One thinks that because they have this angel blood that they're divine. The other group knows that, no, that's abominable. This side claims to be heirs to the throne because of their angel blood. This side claims to be heirs to the throne because they don't have angel blood. I know everybody's dying to know which side are the good guys. Here's the irony. Here's the jester. All right? Gonna get a laugh out of this. The flesh avails nothing. What are y'all doing? One side is the head, the other side is the tail, and the snake eats itself, I say. Google that. Today I remembered how fun TikTok can be. Ham's descendants had angel blood. Japheth, the middle child, his descendants did not. They spread out first into the far-flung places in the isles and such, the indigenous. They got everywhere first. Shem's descendants were also clean. Or less divine. Depending on which viewpoint you take. I take neither. There is a third option. Now, that was like thousands of years ago, so to make a long story short, in 2025, we've basically, not to say this is the entire story, but it's the most of it by now, and will trend in this direction until it's done. Now we basically just got 2 groups on the earth. I mean, there's more than that, but it boils down to 2. One of them is called Gentiles. I'm just going to leave it right there. One of them's called Gentiles, and that's like almost everyone now. And the most divine Gentiles are our rulers by right of descendancy and purity of divine blood maintained in the DNA. How much of it do they have? Peasants? Royals? And the other side says, nah, you're all pigs. Why did angel blood get let on the ark? Look, God let the clean and the unclean animals onto the ark. God is a merciful Savior. He saves even bastards. It shows up in his existence because he allowed it. And then he's not going to have mercy? He is. How do I know? He let the unclean animals on the ark as well. Less of them, but he saved them all the same. Anyway, that two groups thing happened by conquest and colonization and such. Like, Japheth got visited everywhere. But the irony here of what actually happened in world history is so thick. Only a master could write such a story as this, I'm sure of it. Because the two groups somehow are ending up as both Shem. Shem's tents. Somehow it worked out. Whoop. Everyone ended up in the tents of Shem. Even the Gentiles. I'm talking about bodies, DNA, fathers, mothers, and such. These are the tents that we're just pilgrims passing through, and these are our tents, you know? As if God always had a plan to save the Gentiles. Whoa. Made sure of it. Even though men do evil, terrible things, like nobody can thwart God's plan for salvation and mercy and grace. It can't be done. Even what the devil means for the purest evil, God will turn out for the good. Because the devil cannot thwart God. Cannot. Though he fools too many people into thinking they can. God can and will and does save even the abominable, and extends his mercy even to the wicked person who will turn from his ways and turn his heart and mind back to the Lord. God's plan here is so beautiful. I can't wait. That's the third option, by the way. God's plan. Not
my
men. God's plan is the third option that I adhere to. What is it? The Lord desires mercy, not sacrifice. Mercy. These are tents, and they avail nothing. The mansions we are after, God builds us in his mercy and extends the invitation to all. This doesn't matter because he set it up to where it doesn't matter in the end. So angel blood, pure blood, no. The blood of Jesus Christ, the only one who knew no sin. He didn't have pure human blood. He didn't have tainted angel blood. The Holy Spirit of God was his Father. And that's what his DNA, in his DNA, okay? Good news, children's, gather around, children's. Not angel blood, not human blood, God blood, God's own blood.
Amen.
Option number 3.
Number 3.
Take that one.
Me too.
Don't claim your own. Oh, my descendancy and my ancestry is... Have you seen my pedigree? My father is God. By his own blood that he shed for me, that I can claim his and not my own.
Amen.
Now, he did that with animals. He did that with humans. Made a way. This is going to sound crazy, but did you watch the rest of the video? You don't think he's going to extend that same grace to, like, robots? I don't think robots are the Gentiles of the next age. I say they might be. The Japanese have already made skin for them, human skin. Human brain organoids are already processing data on servers right now. It's live. Have y'all seen Blade Runner? Can you imagine robots that are completely human in every way, biology and everything, cells and everything? Only their minds are artificial intelligence, even though they're human brains. Imagine a robot such as that is literally a human. It's just that men made it with their own hands. Y'all go on and extend that loving kindness to the robots and the artificial intelligence. Have you seen the Matrix prequels? Looked a lot like Kai Cenat kicking his robot.